August 16th, 1977. Memphis, Tennessee. The humidity hangs heavy in the air over Graceland. At 3:30 p.m., a frantic announcement hits the wire services and spreads like wildfire across the planet. Elvis Aaron Presley is dead. The official story was simple, perhaps too simple. A heart attack caused by a cocktail of prescription drugs, ending the life of the most famous man on Earth at just 42 years old. But for nearly 50 years, a shadow has loomed over that hot August afternoon. What if the king of rock and roll didn't die? What if he merely left the building for the last time, not in a coffin, but in a carefully orchestrated escape? To understand the death of Elvis Presley, we cannot just look at the body. We must look at the motive, the method, and the mistakes. Welcome to the Chronos Dossier. Today, we dismantle the official timeline.
Within the Chronos Dossier, every moment is scrutinized, every secret revealed.
To understand why a man who seemingly had everything would fake his own death, we must first examine the chaotic reality of Elvis's life in 1977. He was not just a singer, he was a prisoner of his own fame. He was trapped in grueling tour schedules, physically deteriorating and financially bleeding. But there was a darker threat lurking in the background, one that goes beyond showbiz burnout. It involves the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It is a documented fact that Elvis had a fascination with law enforcement. He famously met President Richard Nixon in the Oval Office to request a federal narcotics badge. But investigators believe this wasn't just a hobby. There is substantial evidence suggesting Elvis was a mole for the FBI in an investigation known as Operation Fountain Pen. This operation targeted a massive racketeering syndicate known as the Fraternity, which had deep ties to the music industry and the Mafia. Elvis had reportedly testified or provided information against key Mafia figures. By the summer of 1977, the word on the street was that his cover was blown. The mob had put a hit out on him. Caught between a Mafia contract and a life he could no longer endure, Elvis faced a choice: die for real or die on paper.
Now let's scrutinize the day of the incident. The timeline provided by the frantic people inside Graceland is riddled with inconsistencies. Elvis was found on the bathroom floor of his master suite. The paramedics who arrived on the scene noted something incredibly disturbing. They reported that livor mortis, the settling of blood in the lower portion of the body, had already set in. Medical science tells us this process takes hours. Yet the timeline given by his fiancée, Ginger Alden, and his entourage claimed he had only been alone for a short time. How could a body show signs of having been deceased for hours if he was seen alive shortly before? Furthermore, despite the apparent drug overdose, witnesses stated his eyes were closed and his tongue was not protruding, details that are inconsistent with the violent nature of the supposed cause of death. It was too peaceful, too staged. Then comes the casket. This is where the physical evidence becomes bizarre. Elvis's funeral was an open casket event visited by thousands, but the man in the box did not look like the man who had been photographed just days before. The nose was described as pugged, the hairline looked artificial, and his hands, famous for being calloused from years of karate and guitar playing, were smooth and pristine. But the most chilling detail came from the temperature. It was a sweltering Memphis summer. yet guests reported a distinct chill coming from the coffin. The coffin itself weighed a staggering 900 pounds. Why so heavy? The prevailing theory is that the casket contained a mobile cooling unit to preserve a wax figure, preventing it from melting in the heat. This explains the beads of sweat seen on the forehead, wax reacting to the temperature change, because as we know, corpses do not sweat.
Let's move to the financial trail. In almost every case of a staged death, the primary motive is money, cashing out a life insurance policy. But Elvis Presley had a massive life insurance policy worth millions of dollars. And here is the smoking gun. No one ever cashed it. To this day, that policy remains unclaimed. Why? Because in the United States, faking your death is not technically a crime, but filing a false insurance claim is federal fraud. If Elvis was entering the witness protection program, he would need to leave his assets behind to avoid committing a felony that would allow the government to pursue him. He walked away from the money to keep his freedom. The escape plan leads us back to the airport. On August 16, as the ambulance sirens were still echoing in Memphis, a man bought a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires, Argentina. He paid in cash. The name on the ticket was Jon Burrows. For the uninitiated, this name means nothing, but to the inner circle, it meant everything. Jon Burrows was the specific alias Elvis used for years to book hotel rooms and travel incognito. It was his secret code. The odds of a random stranger using that exact name on that exact day, flying to a country with no extradition treaty with the U.S., are astronomically low.
In the months and years that followed, the sightings began. Most can be dismissed as wishful thinking, but one piece of photographic evidence is hard to ignore. Known as the pool house photo, taken months after the funeral, it shows a man sitting behind the screen door of the pool house at Graceland. The man bears a striking resemblance to Elvis. When the photo surfaced, the Presley estate claimed it was Al Strada, a security guard. But forensic analysis of the facial structure suggests otherwise. Why would the king hide in his own backyard? Perhaps to check on the one person he couldn't take with him, his daughter, Lisa Marie. We must also discuss the behavior of his father, Vernon Presley. In the weeks following the death, Vernon didn't act like a grieving father. He acted like a man managing a crisis. He fired almost everyone in the Memphis Mafia, Elvis's entourage, immediately. He then made a decision that baffles historians to this day. He sealed the autopsy report. Not for 10 years, not for 20, but for 50 years. The official medical examiner's report on the death of Elvis Presley is locked away and will not be made public until the year 2027. If the cause of death was a simple, tragic heart attack induced by drugs, what is buried in those files that is so sensitive it requires half a century of secrecy?
Was the death of Elvis Presley the greatest performance of his career? A final curtain call orchestrated by the FBI to save a witness, or a desperate escape by a man who wanted to reclaim his soul? The evidence, the sweating Bonnie, the misspelled tombstone, the uncashed insurance, and the mysterious Jon Burrows paints a picture far more complex than the official narrative. As we approach 2027, the world waits. Until those files are opened, we are left with the haunting possibility that on that summer day in 1977, the king didn't die. He just went home.
Within the Chronos Dossier, every moment is scrutinized, every secret revealed.